Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Tech Talk Friday, or is it Friday Tech Talk? I'm not too sure actually. But as usual, we've got a very interesting show. We've got two guests, and our first guest. So one is Leon Foong from a company which is called SOCAR. Some of you may know of it. I've used them before. I've been a customer. I am a customer, I guess. And then the second one is a entrepreneur who runs a startup called iStore, iSend, which I think gives you a sense that they're actually in the logistics business. They were in the logistics business, but now they're not. So I will let that entrepreneur Khoo explain exactly what they're doing. Very interesting. Oh, there's some quick fun facts there, but not yet. Our producer is getting a bit of the itchy fingers there. And then so this is Leon Foong. So you can see some fun facts about him. And Leon actually is interesting. He's actually run some of the largest startups in the country before. And I think he came to everyone's attention when he was running Uber in the country. And then he moved on to with another large company. And now he's actually with SOCAR, which is a large a startup that is in the movement space. I think I probably got it wrong. He's probably cursing, saying, how come Karan doesn't know exactly what we are? But it's a Korean-based company. And they actually, Malaysia is the first country they've launched outside of Korea. And Leon tells me that Malaysia is the regional hub. And he actually just moved to Indonesia, launched in Indonesia, 2 months ago. So we've got an interesting Indonesian aspect to ask him as well also. And with that, we'll just bring Leon onto the show now so we can get this show on the road. Very good. Leon,
Hi,
I was going to tell you your mic is on mute. And apparently that is the most often used phrase the whole of last year when everybody goes to video conferencing, right? Your mic's on mute.
Hopefully we'll have a different catchphrase in 2021.
Yeah, hopefully. It's like I can't handle all the business, right? Pent-up demand. But anyway, that aside, Leon, just quickly introduce yourself to our viewers out there. And maybe just talk about quickly your journey from Uber, right? And you moved to one other place, and then before you came to SOCAR. And I'm going to tell everyone that, look, as I was thinking about the show, I'm saying that this bugger is so lucky, man. He's got the best gig in town, right? He's sitting there with a big company that has, I think valuation is 500 million US, or I could be wrong now, but they're very successful in Korea, raised a lot of money, and he's the country head in Malaysia, and there's no competition except for a local player called GoCar. Yay, GoCar. Okay, sorry about that. I'm supposed to be neutral on the show, but I couldn't help myself being a Malaysian, patriotic Malaysian. So it's only got GoCar to compete, and the two of them have the market to themselves. May not be all that rosy, but I think it's a great situation for Leon to be in. So Leon, introduce yourself a little bit first and talk about your market presence in Malaysia and what are you all doing to grow the business. All yours. Okay, Leon's. Okay,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Your video is. Oh, I was going to say maybe SOCAR has cut the broadband budget, man. Not a good sign.
Okay. Well, you're gonna thank time for that. But yeah, just to say, always a pleasure to be on your show. I find it always a great intellectually stimulating experience to be talking to you. But just a quick intro. I've been in the mobility space now for close to 8 years.
Wow.
And I think mobility changes all the time. Right. Previously, we were talking about ride sharing. Yep. Today, we're talking about car sharing. And recently in the market, you had things that came and go, such as bicycle sharing. And you have also things like e-scooter sharing. But I think one constant that holds true in mobility is the fact that people all around the world need to move around. Yep. And how do we make transportation and mobility more affordable for the average Joe out there? Right. That's always been a key mission. And I think if you dive, one level deeper, what mobility does for societies and communities is that it increases access to places that people want to go to. Accesses to, to workplace, access to education, right? So I think if you talk about the great equalizer, transportation and mobility is probably one of the biggest equalizers that any city, any community, any government can invest in. And I think, I've been extremely privileged to be able to play my role in terms of really building mobility ecosystems in Malaysia. And to really, answer your second question, which is, do we actually have competition in Malaysia or in the region, in the car sharing space? And I tell you, we actually have plenty of competition in Malaysia.
Oh, okay.
Because our biggest competitor is actually the private car purchase and ownership market.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
You just looked at the stats. Last year, I think the numbers just came in. 607,000 vehicles sold.
Crazy,
Right?
yeah. In our show,
2019,
they crossed 600,000. That's insane.
2019, 604,000. So in fact, it was a small number increase from 2019 figures. That shows you, right, that the desire for people to be able to drive their own vehicles has only gone up, right? Whether that's contributed by the pandemic, with more people wanting to have a kind of safe, personal, car to drive. That's
Yep.
debatable. But the fact still remains that every single year, and we're not even talking about second-hand car market yet, we have more than 600,000 vehicles being sold.
Okay.
That's the benchmark that we're looking at, right? As of today, if you look at both our businesses, which is SOCAR and Travel, we only have close to probably 8,000 vehicles that people can list from our platform at any given point in time. If you include Indonesia, we're probably close to about 10,000. That's still a drop in the ocean. That's nothing compared to the ultimate end goal. And the reason why we're so passionate about disrupting the private car ownership space is not the fact that buying cars is something that we're trying to shun. No, it's the fact that a lot of people actually have to take on additional financial liability just to buy a car or to buy a second car, right? And recently we were always talking about in times when the economy is facing headwinds, in times when we're looking at democratization of people being able to invest in different assets, right? Why not make it easier for people to invest in assets and not have to spend these money on unnecessary liabilities? So that's a key mission that really drives what we're trying to do.
But I guess so. Car ownership is a cultural phenomenon. So, like in the US, they say it's part of the American dream. And I'm super pissed at all these experts. Remember, a few years ago, they said that look, the millennials, especially the younger, millennial is a big age group now, right? 15 years. But the younger group of millennials, eschew car ownership. It's old school. That's grandfather, father's time, and especially even the centennials. But lo and behold, you look in the US now, car ownership has rebounded. It seems like the millennials actually do want to own a car, especially when they move up into their maybe late 20s, right, 30s, and then your soccer mom phenomenon or whatnot. And that was only in the US. I think in Malaysia, the car ownership is still a desired outcome because you've got the instant flexibility. Are you seeing anything to change now? Because you said car ownership is still your biggest change, right? And you guys are probably not a factor in trying to make that cultural change because it's beyond just your one company, right? To tell people you don't need to own a car. So how do you move the trigger, or you don't even bother? You just make this a more competing, more valuable proposition. Eventually, people transition on their own. I don't know.
I think our core market segment actually has two types of individuals. Okay, in fact, three. Individuals who do not own cars.
Okay,
right? And probably do not see a reason to own a car or might struggle to get a loan.
Yes. Okay.
Individuals who live in a household with more than two people that share just one car, right? And individuals who already own multiple cars but just want to drive a different car model or use a different car when they're going to a different location or different city when they have a different use case. So let's just say I own a Myvi and I own a Proton at home, one hatchback, one sedan, but I want to go on a long weekend trip, maybe I want an SUV. Right? So we look at these three different segments, but fundamentally, what we've acknowledged is, yes, there are cultural factors beyond economic drivers that lead to people wanting to buy cars. However, what we've enabled people to do using SOCAR's technology and Travel, which is our peer-to-peer platform, is that even if you own a car, even if you want to buy a new car, we want to take away that burden for you. So for example, we have partnerships with car dealers where you can go to a dealership, you can buy a car and immediately get a discount that's subsidized by Travel and buy a car that you like, as long as you're committed to sharing your car on the Travel platform for at least a few days a month. Right? And every time your car is being shared on the Travel platform, we will make it easier. Maybe sometimes someone booked your car and you still need another car to do essential shopping. You can rent a SOCAR and lease out your own car on the Travel platform and actually make that arbitrage, right? Make that delta so that you're still net cash flow positive.
So how many people are, I know once Roshan comes on, I got no time to ask questions, but let me quickly get this in. How many people are buying cars now with the discount and with the caveat that maybe 3 days or 4 days a month, right? The car is, on your platform.
I can tell you, between June and December last year, we saw more than 4,000 new vehicles being listed and made available on the travel platform. So that's 4,000 new cars that are being made available on the platform. And out of those, I can tell you, on average, each car gets booked on average 4 to 5 times a month on the platform. So that equates to about 8 to 10 rental days per car per month. So I actually recently bought a car just to do the exact same thing. So I recently bought a car just to list it on the travel platform, and on a per monthly basis, right, by just renting out for 8 days, I can easily make up to 3K.
Wow. So a couple of comments coming in, Leon. Mawani says, you still recently, so easy to use, cars in good condition, efficient system, excellent customer service. So what do you do to make that happen? Because it's very easy to say all these things magically happen because you're SOCAR, but it doesn't, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that you do at the back end to make all these things happen, right? And to run the business efficiently.
It's a constant learning curve, but the most important thing for any of these sharing economy type platforms or business models is the data.
Okay.
Right? So when we first started, and I'll be quick to admit, we're not perfect and we're not where we want to be yet. Right? We're still looking to improve both in terms, of our fleet optimization, as well as how to make the overall experience even better. But the key thing is to really understand demand patterns. So I'll give you an example. When cars are not being utilized that much, you actually fall into a vicious negative spiral. What this means is you have fewer data points, you have fewer people telling you when the cars are dirty and when the cars are in need of maintenance, and there's a greater need for our fleet team to go out there and check every single car. However, when utilization is high, every single one of our customers and members essentially becomes a crowdsourced fleet maintenance team. Right? They tell us exactly what's wrong with the cars. Also, some of the members who actually care a lot about community, they even take themselves to put the responsibility upon themselves to take the car to the car wash to get them cleaned.
Nice.
So honestly, the ultimate answer is liquidity in the platform. The more liquidity you have, the more members we have who care about the community, the better the quality of the service. So that's something that we're constantly trying to work on.
So I mean, very, very interesting. In fact, I think Karam was in total shock just now, at least according to Bikesh. He just disappeared. He lost his connection. But I think what you say was so profound that it just probably blew his laptop out of the air, right? but Leon, I think so. When we talk about this business model and as you try to scale it in Malaysia, I'm sure there's some concerns. I mean, we have another user, there's a viewer that's saying, what about concerns about people renting cars during this pandemic and also for yourself, right? I mean, I'm sure the uptake the tick has been down significantly because of the pandemic, right? Or is it the other way around?
The good news is, I mean, last year, despite the multiple lockdowns and the challenges, we still saw very healthy growth in the business. In fact, and this year, as we look at, changes in consumer habits, as people substitute international travel for more local travel, as people maybe move away from public transportation and look at more options where they can socially distance themselves from strangers, we actually see demand grow for our product. And we take a lot of effort to ensure our cars are properly sanitized. But one of the key concerns, and this applies to everyone, is that generally when you read about the pandemic in the news, people might be afraid to go out. You're afraid to go to crowded places. And the way our cars are distributed is, we have some of them that are based in residential areas, and we have some cars that are based in shopping malls, right? And typically some people might be afraid to go to shopping malls or high density areas. And that's natural during the time of the pandemic. So what we've done to make it easier for them to still access our cars is actually leverage on our SOCAR to use service. So with our SOCAR to use service, all you need to do is book a car 40 minutes in advance, and your car delivered right to your doorstep, wherever you want it to be. And after you're done with the car, we actually pick it up for you. So with that, it's equivalent to having a second or third or your first car at home, parked at a parking of your choice whenever you want it. The only difference is you only pay for it when you want it. When you don't want it, you don't need to pay for it.
Okay, so I see Karam popping up. I think here. So let's pop him back into our equation. Karam, you know what Bikesh was telling us, that you were so in awe and shocked by what Leon was saying, that you completely lost your connection.
I was, because for 4,000, sorry, you may have answered this, Leon, but for 4,000 people to have already purchased cars with that discount and with the commitment to lease their car on the platform, to me it's amazing. But I'm guessing.
So to correct, not all 4,000 buy a car just for that. They might have bought a car previously. But 4,000 is the number of new people that have shared their cars on our platform.
Okay, so it's a combination of those existing cars or new cars, right? So, but for those who just bought a car to get the discount and with the SOCAR commitment, I'm guessing that 95% of them are probably 25 years old and younger. I want to give the viewer a sense of who are the kind of people who would go for this kind of arrangement.
Actually, no. I mean, we're talking about quite a wide segment.
Oh.
Based on a pilot that we ran, we're looking at people that are typically ranging between the ages of 25 to 35.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And we also have people who are perhaps in a slightly older age group, but they don't just buy one car. They actually buy 4 to 5 cars as an investment just to put on the platform.
Wow.
Karam, turn a liability into an asset.
And Karam, tomorrow you better go out there and put your car there also.
Don't worry, if your personal car is too precious for you, we can set you up on a deal to buy 4 to 5 cars. No problem.
Only Karam can afford to buy 4 to 5 cars here. Most of us are.
The CEO of GM just made a commitment that by 2035 they're going to only produce electric cars. So I'm keeping my carburetor, not even fuel injection, my carburetor engine, man. By 2035 I can sell that baby for a lot of money, man.
You for a museum maybe lah.
I think you're right.
Okay, sorry. There's a question from
question from Madura. What? I mean, I guess this is more of an opinion piece. What about, what do you think about, is there a change that needs to happen in Malaysia about their approach to mobility planning?
Well, I think the first part to mobility planning, and maybe not all people see both sides of the equation, is that the other side of the equation is actually urban planning. I always tell people this when they talk about mobility and transportation coverage in different cities, is that not every single city is built the same, right? Not all cities are built equal. That's a fact. So if you look at the likes of Singapore and the likes of New York, the incentive to own a car is actually very, very low. Right? Obviously, on one hand, you have a high penetration of public transportation options. But even if you had the money to own a car and pay for the parking, it actually creates a bigger inconvenience to own a car in some of these cities. Right? But then take the same country. If you compare LA versus New York, the per capita car ownership is a lot higher. Why? Because the city is a lot more vast. So if you look at a place like Klang Valley, where we have very different townships, right? We have the Subang Jayas, we have PJ, we have KLCC, we have Mont Kiara, is that we're actually consisting, Klang Valley consists of many different townships and connected by these lengthy highways. What this means is no matter how much you invest in the MRT or the LRT, first and last mile still becomes a fundamental challenge. And if you wanted to solve it, you're going to have to invest a lot into the bus transit system. Right? I mean, that remains a fact. Obviously, you can optimize mobility better through, better demand side planning, working together with property developers to build property along, kind of TODs, right? Transit-oriented developments. That's always a possibility, but that's expensive, right? Especially in a country which already has a property market that, is facing certain headwinds, right? We already have an oversupply, for example, of high-density apartment units. That becomes a huge investment for people to undertake. So with that in mind, I think the first thing that people need to ask themselves when it comes to mobility is, how do we change the way property, commercial properties, residential, how do we change the whole development philosophy behind that? That's step number 1, right? That's step number 2 is when you realize that it's really expensive for the governments to really invest in last mile and first mile, explore other ways which are more sustainable and more economical. So one thing that actually I think we Malaysians don't do enough of is we don't like to walk, right? Even if you live...
100% humidity, bro. 100% humidity, that's why.
Yeah, but I mean, Singapore has very high humidity too, right? It's an island, but more people walk, right? Obviously, you have a lot of underground connections, air-conditioned walkways. But that's also something that I think, we should include as part of city planning, right? Which is, first of all, think of the fact, which is how do we change their walking behavior? Once people are willing to walk, it's not a huge distance, 1 kilometer more a day, you actually see a lot of reliance on needing to drive, right? But that 1 kilometer is the biggest challenge. Right? A lot of people talk about the last mile. Let's talk about the first mile, right? If you're willing to, sweat a little bit more, like you said, in the 100% humidity, I really strongly believe that people's transportation behaviors would change.
Interesting. Talking about that, Leon, I just want to jump on to the cost. You said it's very expensive to do, for governments. But look, for you guys, I'm just boggled with 8,000 vehicles. Even if you take an average cost of 80,000 a vehicle, that's 640 million ringgit. How much have you all invested to bring in put 8,000 vehicles on the road, or some of them are because people are already leasing their own cars. But
Yes.
even if you divide it by half, 4,000, right? It's still a 300 over million ringgit investment by you all, right? It's an incredible capex. When do you see the returns coming in from this kind of business?
Well, I can tell you. I mean, in fact, out of the 8,000, 2,300 cars we own ourselves, right? So the capex is actually just under 200 million ringgit. But as of Q4 last year, we already saw our core business showing signs of EBITDA profitability. So that's on the core business side, right? When we hit a fleet size of 4,000 cars, we expect to be net income positive, right? So obviously, sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, kena. So you is it 4,000 that you own yourself from the 2,000?
Yes, on the core business. I'm talking.
Okay.
That
you
core
own
business.
the core business, where you own the. Okay, understood.
Correct.
Wow, but still, that's an amazing long-term visibility by the Koreans, to put in that kind of money and believe that things will work out this way, right? That's kind of incredible,
Yeah.
So I think our shareholders have a vision. In fact, in the last round of fundraising, we also, invited more new investors to come in, make sure both strategic as well as financial investors, such as private equity firms. But I think the journey is super exciting. I think this year, one of our key focus is to move away from being just a shared mobility player to becoming a true mobility platform. What this means is, we've really proven that we can do two things rather well. The two things we can do rather well is buy cars, deploy them in strategic locations, and increase the yield on these cars by renting them out on an hourly basis. Right. The other thing that we do pretty well is creating enough liquidity on the marketplace where if you already have your own car, you can share your car on our platform, and we're confident that you can make good money by sharing your car. The third thing that we're starting to look at is through protecting our own assets and assets that are owned by other individuals, right? How do we do risk management better, right? And how do we further increase the yield on these cars? So we've actually started working with other car rental companies as well, such as the likes of Sime Darby Rent-A-Car, who've decided to actually deploy some of the vehicles on our platform, and we're actually seeing very healthy yields on these cars. So that's one thing that we do pretty well now. The other second part, which we do rather well, is understanding the risk profiles of every single driver that wants to rent these cars. Right? With that better understanding of risk, how can we monetize it, and how can we create new revenue streams from that? So, in the future, we really want to understand, just like how CTOS works closely with the banks, we want to understand how can we work closely with underwriters, insurance companies, brokers, to actually add value to, what we call the protection ecosystem. End of the day, insurance is all about buying protection. And I think that space that, we've spent a lot of time looking at the data, doing deep learning to try and optimize the risk for ourselves and for the host to share the cars on our platform. The next step is really understanding how can we share some of those benefits with the public, such as, yourself, right? Think about it, right? Last year, I bet you more than probably 75% of the population did lower mileage than they did in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you speak to any insurance company, the biggest loading factor for a lot of insurance premiums is actually distance.
Yeah.
Right? So if you drove half the distance you did in 2019, tell me, did your insurance premiums come down?
No.
Not really, even though it should be. So that to me represents a certain inefficiency that SOCAR and travel hope to be able to help.
No, that's very interesting because that's one piece. The other piece is potentially you can have the CTOS version of drivers, right? Who are potentially the best drivers, safest drivers, and see whether Karam is in the top 10 list of the Karamjit Singhs of the world, right? But Leon, we need to take a break. But before that, we always have this very quick test your guess challenge.
Okay.
This is where we, in about 30 seconds, you need to quickly answer 5 questions. Each one, about 15, 20 seconds each. So I'm gonna go and jump on the questions. You got 5 questions. That's very simple. Answer them as fast as you can. Okay. So question number 1: Why are you on Tech Talk Friday?
Because I'm a big fan of yourself and Karam.
All right, good answer. Very good. You get a point. Okay. Question number 2: What was the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you?
Oh, I can tell you. Once I was in a similar talk, and let's just say my stomach wasn't feeling too well. Ooh. So I had to finish the talk and maintain my composure.
I have a feeling that's what happened to Karam just now. But in these days, he just sense like it was like the mute button didn't work and this button.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was a live panel, so I actually could not press the mute button. Yeah,
correct. Live, good old brick face to face. Yeah.
There you go. So okay, question number 3: Are you a cat person or are you a dog person, or neither?
I like both, but I'm more of a dog person.
All right, there you go. See how easy this is. Describe your dream for 2021. I think that's 2021. I think not 2020 with a 1. 2021, your dream.
Whoa, my dream. This is a tough one. There's so many. But the first one is, hopefully the borders open up again.
Okay, this is the most important question and the most profound, right? Very important, right? And this one you really have to answer. Who's more handsome, Karam or you?
Definitely Karam. I've spent the last 10 years trying to grow a beard like his. As you can tell, mine can't really connect. Can't even connect. Yeah, so you see, I'm trying to. That's the missing gap. I need to learn what product to apply.
Unbelievable, Leon, you passed the test with flying colors, man. Not bad. And you didn't start.
After this, please give me some tips. I need the oil.
No, my pay-per-view tutorial on growing to die for beard is coming soon.
All right, there you go. Proloy is like, it's a good job. So you win a prize. It's actually a very romantic dinner with Karamjit. So go claim that, and Karam will be ready to you can redeem that anytime.
Lorong Marof corner shop when the restaurant's open again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick short break and we'll be right back with Khoo right after this. Who's going to join us, and then I think at the end we'll bring back Leon and Joe to join us in our show. So here we go with a little short word from our sponsors.
Thank you.
Jackie 你有冇聽啲咧叫 app 叫 Nicole
是做乜？
唔是啦，我教你講 app 啦嘛。嘅你看啲 Nicole 你看，伊加了後真正係 article、podcast、courses 嘅啊。我教你講啊，你愛變好名，你愛好名。
愛好名啊，定啲？
你愛趁錢無？
趁錢啲咯。
啊，所以啊，你特別用 Nicole，真係說，你睇啦，你看誒 article 嘅咧，你睇啦，你變真高嘅，知無？
唔嘢無，嚟我看啲。
有年你看啲 article 看按照好名，按照趁錢類，哇！呀，你睇，
你一日看好，你咪真來就搞。
有啦，教你講你嘛，你咪聽，當見到特別去看，特別看個了，
拍個了。你講你真搞啦，我
OK， 好，你先好嚟。
Welcome back to Tech Talk Friday. Karam, we had a very insightful conversation with Leon. I mean, very interesting business model, right? SOCAR. I mean, very long-term focus.
Super long-term, very capital intensive also, no ifs and buts about it. The only thing they've done is that they're now encouraging us, right, the average person to put their kind of platform. But you're still striking that Leon says that, the bigger margins are still when they own the asset themselves. And I'm really struck by that. But also, Leon, if you're listening, when you come back on, there's one question I want to ask you and you can answer, which is how much experiences in Malaysia are you sharing with Korea and vice versa? And is there anything that you insight from Malaysia that the Koreans are playing in their market, or because of cultural differences, the experiences don't port over easily? But anyway, with that now, let me talk about Joe.
Yeah, we got a new guest that's coming in, Joe. Sorry, but just to give you a summary, right? Our viewers they found the most interesting part of the entire Tech Talk was when Leon answered those 5 questions. So you can see the high intellectual level and the curiosity that we all. But great one, and Diwakar's here. Diwakar's here, everybody. He's on the show, so he says hello. So with that, let's bring in our next guest. We've got Joe, who's on the show. And Karam, you want to share a little bit about our buddy Joe?
Yeah. So Joe is interesting. I had a brief conversation with him beforehand, and they've actually been running this business since like 2008. Okay, Roshan. I was going to say Asuhan for some reason, Roshan. Since 2008, they got in there first into the e-commerce space. They wanted to do a replica of what like Taobao was. And I was saying, hey, in 2008, I didn't even know about Taobao. Here you are. So, but his advantage was that he was in the family.
For a tech journalist, is very disappointing, Karam, But
Yeah,
okay, we'll let it. No one heard except, everyone.
But listen,
okay,
so 2008, and because he was in a family business, and they were like, I think in the he didn't tell me exactly what the family business was, but it entailed him traveling around the region, and he got exposed to China also, so he saw what's going on in e-commerce there. So that's how I got in, and he also realized that there was a gap in the logistics area, right? So what's amazing is that they started out in the last mile logistics, then they moved into they dropped last mile, they became middle mile. And middle mile is where it becomes a bit more interesting. And he's going to talk about that transition, because that's when they brought in this $5.5 million US investment also. It's a long journey, not your overnight success, but a lot of learnings there, I think. So let's bring on Joe.
Let's bring Joe on board. Joe, welcome to Tech Talk Friday. Great to have you here with us, Joe.
Hey, hi.
And I'll leave you in the good hands of Karam, because Karam always complains that whenever I'm on, he never gets a chance to ask a single question, which is not true at all. But never mind. Being the gentleman that I am, Karam,
Okay, so Joe,
Yes.
just share with our listeners how you started in 2008, right? And then from there, moving on into your what you all were doing in the logistics side, and then with the key your key customer also, right? The learnings you had from there, where you ended up partnering with them to do something more, which became then eventually the current iteration of iStore, iSend that we have.
Yeah. Okay. So, thank you for having me on the show, Karamjit. So the first thing I want to share is I think you're right. So the journey was not the typical journey that I think a lot of people know. So it was a very long journey. But my passion and my co-founder's passion in e-commerce started very young, right? So in 2008, we believed that e-commerce was kind of the future of the how we're going to shop, right? We really believed in it, but we didn't know where we're going to invest our time. At that point, we thought, hey, maybe we should, just replicate what they're doing in China, Alibaba, Taobao, just start something, right? So, and that's how we started a platform. So I got involved in a platform, started a platform, but that's when I really kind of realized one pain point, because the first transaction that happened, we thought when we were building the platform, our job was just to kind of connect buyers and sellers, and then that's it, right? So I was kind of very surprised when the first sales happened, and then the guy was like, hey, you know what, Joe, I got that sale, so exciting. I said, congratulations, right? Back then 2008, right? So it's a big deal. So I thought, hey, then he asked me, so Joe, what do we do now? I said, just pack the item and send to your customers, right? So that's it, right? So simple, right? Point A, point B kind of thing. They say, yeah, but it's so hassle, right? The post ledger doesn't come pick up from me. I have to drop it off, like, what do I do now, right? Can you arrange someone to come and do this for me? And I'm like, okay, that firstly, of course, my first reaction was that's not my job, because I was just a platform, right?
Yeah.
But then further thought about it, it's like, hey, there's an opportunity here. This is a gap, right? This is a gap for sellers. So when that happened, I shared that idea with my longtime friend, my buddy from primary school.
Wonderful, right?
Yeah. So we thought it's like, hey, this is a great opportunity, and that's how we started to say, there is a gap in logistics for e-commerce. The big players are not serving the e-commerce back then. How can we address this market, right?
Okay.
So the easiest way to do it, we studied around and we were looking at the whole world, and we thought what some of these smartest people doing was kind of make sense lah. We weren't so exactly the smartest people in the world, so we kind of have to copycat from the smartest people lah, right? So we look at the two big taikos lah, right? So it was Amazon and also Alibaba. Both of them were already highlighting the importance of logistics, right? So I say, okay, and then we just kind of copy what they are doing. So Amazon had this like 100 million square feet warehouses everywhere in US, right? Where everything that you buy is actually in there, right? So that is something that we was like, wow, this is interesting. We should go into like logistics, warehousing, and whatnot. But of course, we were super early. We were so early in the game because 2008, I think we were still at Laoyat, we were still at all the forum trading, right? Or even classifieds, right? Those are the days, right? So we were so early that fulfillment or middle mile wasn't really that important. So we went and pivoted really hard into last mile, right? So last mile is practically just like picking up from point A to point B, and that happened. We did that business called IS Logistics. Of course, the acronym stand for iStore, iSend, but we decided to just use ISIS Logistics. Of course, why we dropped that acronym, right? So ISIS Logistics was very focused on just point A, point B, last mile. But we couldn't we had a tough time there scaling that business because it was very capital intensive, also human capital intensive, asset intensive. So we didn't see how far it could go, and that's when we kind of realized, where do we want to be, and that's how we focus on what is really our core passion, what can differentiate ourselves. And one of the things that was really glaringly missing was actually the middle mile, and that's when we invest. We kind of bet the whole farm on this lah. So back then, like me and Tommy, we had like 90% of our revenue, or like 95% of revenue was last mile, right? So we had to drop that whole thing to focus on the middle mile, right? And trying to lease our first warehouse was super exciting and scary. So yeah, for a bunch of young entrepreneurs, that's a substantial commitment, right? So
this was 2013 or 2012? 2013?
2013 was the first time we got a real warehouse, right? And that was after we were able to convince an angel investor to kind of join us. So shout out to Mr. Cheng to believe in us so early, right? So we definitely grew from there, and luckily the decision was right, and we catch on the wave, and that was the wave where e-commerce really kind of blew up. And that's when I think if people who remember for the a bit more older audiences, right? Groupon, Living Social, and Sogo, those were the group buying days, right? And group buying morphed from just food to luggages, bags, and all these things, right? So, and that's when you started to see big time sales, right? People who are sellers that are doing maybe $1,000 a day, $100 a day, where middle mile becomes really important. And that's when we came in, and luckily enough, we had the facility and we grew from there. We catch on that wave. Our first big break was Living Social, then Groupon, and then after that we had all the platforms come in. And then after that, history is written already, right? You have people from foreign investments, right? Rakuten, 11th Street, Lazada, Shopee, right? So that's how the whole benefited and grew the whole e-commerce. As more and more merchants transacted more and more, middle mile became more important, and that's when we really grew. So again, e-commerce logistics, the middle mile is where our core is, right? And today it's still part of our core. It's just that we've kind of done a bit more than just middle mile. Today, if you read the recently news that we raised the $5.5 million US, right? Our business has now gone a bit more varied. We're doing multiple things now, not only just e-commerce logistics. We also went up to do e-commerce enablement, which is a new industry, right? It's practically an industry that's filling a gap between the people who want to go online but doesn't know how to go online, right? Doesn't have the capability, doesn't have the resources, knowledge, whatnot, right? Yeah. So a lot of sellers, a lot of retailers, especially right now in the COVID situation, right? They're suffering quite greatly on the offline retail. They might not have the right tools or the right knowledge to go online, and that is a gap that we try to fill. Not only in solving your middle mile and your last mile, because we have to kind of sort out all your deliveries as well. But now we also have a team of experts that we have in-house that helps you kind of navigate the complexity. And that is the e-commerce enablement, right? We enable people to go digital. Yeah.
Does that include the building the website for them also? Because you say SME merchants may not know, so that includes building the front end also now, right? With this new.
So being experts, right? So we have different capabilities. So one of it is actually helping people if they desire to build their own website. If they want to kind of do Shopify, they want to do their own Magento, WooCommerce, whatnot, we have experts to advise on that. But we don't directly do that. We work with the ecosystem, right?
Okay.
So we want to focus on what we do best and focus on the vision, right? Our vision is to,
No, the vision is good. Sorry.
Yeah, our vision is to help to be the gateway for digital commerce in Southeast Asia, right? So we want to help people digitally transform their business in whatever way. If you're facing a logistics problem, we're there. If you're facing like a skill problem, you don't know the knowledge problem, we're there. If it's a technology problem, we try to be there. So that's where we play.
Wonderful. So you when you want to be the digital heart, MDEC uses the digital heart of ASEAN, right? So you want to be the digital hub for ASEAN also in terms of helping merchants, master the online world, right? From end to end. But clearly, I want to make clear that you do not play in the payment space, right? That one you partner with somebody, because when I hear you talk, it feels like I'm listening to Ganesh Kumar Banga a bit, where commerce.asia also they do a lot of these things that you are doing, but although they do a lot more inside, they've got the social commerce element, right? The social media element, which you don't. But I'm intrigued to see whether you want to add that plugin as well, because there's no barrier to doing that, right?
No, I think for us, our philosophy is very simple. We work with the ecosystem, right? Whatever the people are doing already, we don't want to replicate. We work with them because there's no point replicating the world. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? There's so many great website designers. There's so many great. There's a whole ecosystem, right? In Penang, in KL, in Johor, everywhere, right? Great people. Let's work with them. Right, we just fill the gaps, right? Wherever there is a shortages and there's no one serving that, we feel that, and that's where we believed in.
But your core domain, for everyone knows, is that you've moved away from, you're no more logistics, which is last mile. You are now middle mile, which is where, from what I understand, is when somebody clicks to place an order from the merchant, and the order goes in. When the order you collect the order from them, right? And then in the warehouse, that's when you go into iSend, iStore, iSend swings into action, correct?
Yeah, definitely. The iStore iSend journey is pretty simple, right? Our journey starts when you finish paying. Once you finish paying, right? I think people definitely have the experience when you buy something after you pay. There's this anxiety after you pay, like, if you're gonna get this item, is it gonna be the right item? Like, did I buy the right item, etc. That anxiety, that journey is where we work, right? So we want to make sure that journey is as painless and smooth as possible, right? so that is what we are thinking, right? Okay. So to do that, we that's where we focus on.
So Joe,
sorry.
We have a quick question from a guest. As an avid gamer, do you think gamification will add value or add an effective dimension to the business?
It's always on my mind. It's extremely on my mind. You asked a very good question. I'm a pretty hardcore avid gamer back in the days, right? So I believe that there is a lot of things to learn from games, especially how they get people to play it addictively, right? How you get addicted to games, right? Because there's an incentive system. There's always a constant incentive system where you work hard. Yeah, you work hard, you get somewhere. You level up, right? So we want to employ that philosophy also, and you can see it in our company, right? So in our culture, as well as we have a dream at one point, because we're collecting so many technologies, right? So we've built an in-house OMS, WMS, CMS kind of thing, right? I don't want to go into technical jargon, but it's like something that we're very passionate about. It kind of powers our whole business, right? So one part of it is we're collecting so many information from users' action, including the warehouse operators. So today, warehouse operators could be packing, 10,000 items. We want to gamify it one day where they earn a badge. And they can gain on the next level. You become an expert packer when you go to 1 million package, right? Whatnot. So it creates a journey, but it also is very easy from a human resource point of view, right? So you're now being able to identify who is really contributing to the company and who's really the star, right? And it's transparent, it's fun. So that's the dream. Obviously, we are still a long way to go. We're still scratching the surface. But
anything that has dopamine rush built in, automatically will somewhat. I got another question from Muzaffar, who says, iSend Logistics will create plugin as middleware right?
Yeah. So like say, I think the question is pretty from someone who probably knows the industry, right? So if you are, let's say, operating a website on Shopify, right? They have an ecosystem of plugins that you can install, right? We are one of those plugins where after the orders comes in, it magically gets fulfilled, and when it's not magic lah, it's actually us, right? Our people in the warehouse will have to go in and pick and pack it and send it to the customer, and you will see the order status magically get updated. You don't have to do anything, right? It's also because of the companies that we work with, the technology that we have that kind of automates all these things. And these are all these administrative tasks that we try to take away from e-commerce operations, so you can really focus on what's really important, right? Maybe engaging on the customers, building on the brand, building on your product.
Okay, I'm gonna jump into the test or guess challenge, Karam, and then after that, if you've got any more questions, we can pose to Leon and because so simple, same thing. You saw what happened to Leon. You have to outdo him now. Joe, so a lot of pressure. Remember, Karam wants you to fail because he wants to have a romantic dinner only with Leon. Because if you win two, then he has to take 2 dates. So what made you say yes to being on the show?
Karam. DNA. I read DNA quite a bit. I love the articles, very intellectually.
Good answer. Karam's smiling even though you can't see it, but it's there somewhere behind that. All right. Second question. With latest news that the most FDI was taken out of Malaysia and all these crazy things that's happening in Malaysia. Do you think Malaysia is in trouble?
I think Malaysia is in trouble, but we are faring much better than some of our neighboring country. A lot of people are in trouble in the whole world, right? So who's not in trouble, right? I think what I believe in, Malaysia has the resilience, and I think the people of Malaysia is very resilient. I think we definitely can overcome any challenges.
Okay, all right, fair enough. What is your biggest fear?
Oh, the biggest fear now I have is after raising 5.5 million is disappointing my investors. Obviously, that's my biggest fear right now. So trying to work very hard to make sure that we grow according to their expectation.
Yeah. I can imagine that fear. I'm coming into that territory soon. Name the most inspiring person you've ever met.
Okay. Most inspiring person.
So easy. You're very lucky. Your questions are very easy today. Okay.
I know, right? Let me think. The most inspiring person I've met. I think the most inspiring one, I won't name the name, will be someone in my college, right? So I was very fortunate to meet a very good teacher that taught me how to learn. Instead of he didn't taught me how to the subject. He didn't taught me the subject itself, right? Because I wasn't really paying attention. But he was really teaching me how to learning, right? How do you learn? Not to just read from a book and then just pass the exam, but to learn. And that was one of the key learning.
So I great answer. I mean, even though you don't want to tell us the name of the person, but Leon's really upset. He's like, "What's this, man? I'm getting all the tough questions, and look, you guys." So he's like, he's fuming at the seat on the other side of the studio. But anyway, we'll bring the fuming Leon on in a second. But your final question, again, easy. He gets a handsome question. You get what's the best part of tech? Should be what's the worst part of tech talk, right?
I think this answer quickly. This bullet challenge is the best part. I think, it's really exciting and fun.
Okay, good. And what's the worst part? Just put you on your toes a little bit.
Karam sometimes goes off script pretty easily. So he always on toes. Yeah, always on the toes. Waiting for him to ask us the crazy questions that we might not be able to answer.
Okay, that one I agree, and that one we've been. It's a lifelong problem, We'll take a lifetime to solve, But anyway, that's also why it makes it a very exciting engagement. So, we'll bring Leon on the show. Oops, where's Leon? Okay, Leon's not on. Oh, he is. Okay, he's not. Okay, never mind. While we wait for Leon, I think Leon's on another thing. Joe, just give us a second. Karam and I are going to do another segment called Tech News, and we'll be right back with you and also Leon. All right, so give us a second. So Karam, what's tech news for this week?
one is related to what Joe is doing, right? In terms of enabling merchants, right? To fulfill their purchase. But this is at even the beginning stage, because what's interesting was that the CEO of Maidin Stores, right, which is the most successful Malaysian, department, supermarket chain, he was on BFM, and in the interview, one part he actually said that he feels that e-commerce is actually bad because a lot of SMEs cannot get onto e-commerce, one, and the other thing is that because of e-commerce, you can click and buy from anyone. A lot of the business is going to merchants from outside of the country. And he mentioned MNCs also, and I think the MNCs he mentioned is probably Lazada and Shopee, right? Because they're the two dominant players in the market. Although Amazon also is doing very well, although we don't capture data for Amazon. So he's saying that, hey, I think Malaysia is losing out, and small merchants are losing out. So PCOM then in response came out with a press release to say that, look, they didn't address him, but it's obviously in response to him. They said that, look, e-commerce is the future, and what the government needs to do is to support our SMEs to help them get onto the platform, give them some. And they said, and PCOM said there's a lot of expertise in the country to help merchants get on the platform, and Khoo and iStore, iSend is one of them, right? So there is expertise here. Just help them, which I think they're hoping for financial assistance, right, to get the merchants on board. Then the guys like Joe and Ganesh Kumar and others, right, can come on board. And even Everpix, right, they can come on board. Joachim Sebastian can come on and help the merchants. So PCOM is saying, no, it's not true that e-commerce is bad, right? It is good. You got to get our merchants on board. So very interesting viewpoint, and I think Joey may have something to say about that. So when he gets back on,
So let's get Leon and Joe.
To let's do the other stories first. Easier.
Yeah, no, I mean as soon as we're done, get them to comment on the stories. So talk about the next alternative funding program.
So alternate. No, this is alternate funding. MDEC, right? They did this interesting program last year. They partnered with the equity crowdfunding and the P2P platforms to help encourage more startups to go and raise funding. And actually, they had 16 participating, not just all startups, but tech companies participate. And the companies raised $4.1 million, which was like 20 over million ringgit, right? Almost 20 million ringgit they raised last year. And now they just announced that they're repeating the program again this year. And now they've got a few more equity crowdfunding, a few more partners in there. And this is a great platform for people to come on board to raise funding, right? So this is a good initiative by them. Where MDEC is partnering with the ecosystem, right, to create a bigger impact, right?
So the MyHackathon.
MyHackathon is interesting. So this was actually under Panjana, Roshan. They announced there are a lot of incentives to help the startups and the tech companies. One of them was that they're going to organize a national level hackathon. And actually, in the end, what they did is they went to six states. And they gave them problem statements, and the problem statements came from government, either federal or local government or state government, and they asked people to help. Can you solve a problem? And then they picked the 3 best winners from each state, and out of that, these winners, that means they did 6 states, right? So they picked 18 winners. Each of the 18 winners is going to have 250,000 ringgit from administered by Cradle, and it's not coming from Cradle's existing grant, by the way. It's coming from an allocation from MOF. So they will help these companies to now try to pilot, right, the solution that was deemed to be winners. And on top of that, then just quickly, they did a second tier, which they call, like quick ideas. And they picked 3 companies from each state also, where you got 10,000, 7,000, 5,000. And this is just to incentivize them that, hey, my idea won, right? Maybe I'm going to go further with this. So that's an interesting program by them. Although, Roshan, I can tell you that the Minister Khairi Jamaluddin got a bit of criticism from people, of course, right? They said that why should the minister and why should Cradle be involved in a hackathon? This can be done so many other people. You should focus on more strategic things. But I'm going to be talking to the minister soon, and let's hear his viewpoint of why they felt this was a good initiative to do. Okay, we'll hold.
And you can also ask him about the chickens in Putrajaya, the 2,000 chickens and so on.
Okay, the last one. There's one more. So this is a media company. So this is called Money Compass. The entrepreneur is a lady, Amy Seok. So she's been in the business for 20 years. So in 2017, she said, we're going to do something to make ourselves relevant because, all the ad money is going to the online platforms. So 2018, then they decided that let's be a part of the ecosystem, and they became an e-learning platform, Roshan, right? Something you can relate to. And they are now, if you go to their website, which is called, what is the website called? I forgot the name of the product now. Sorry, you earn money, not earn, you learn, LEARN, you learn money. You can actually buy programs where people are teaching you various life skills, but it's around financial literacy, right? And then you can also buy some books by some authors. I think the famous author Azizi something has written like 50 books on investing in property. So he's there. So the main point is your traditional media company they were in the financial literacy space, but you're finding that your revenues are dropping. What do you do? So this entrepreneur decided to get on and say be part of the e-commerce space, sell programs for improving your financial literacy. Right now, targeting universities, but they're also targeting professional workers, those people in the finance industry. Also, there are about 200,000 of them. And so trying to uplift yourself to stay relevant. And by the way, they're actually on the equity crowdfunding now. I think with Atta Plus, I hope I got the platform right, or maybe it's Pitchin, one of the two. So if you want to go and you're interested in what they're going to do, go to the platforms or you can look at the article. They partner with Atta Plus, so they're trying to raise $1.5 million ringgit there.
Yeah, and there's a tax incentives actually for folks that are contributing in any of the ECFs. You get a tax rebate of up to $50,000. So that's interesting. All right, let's get Leon and Joe on. Leon, Joe, welcome back to the show. It's and Leon, you're muted, so you got to unmute yourself. Okay, great.
Sure.
I wanted to tell him you're on mute, Roshan. You took away my moment,
Yeah, but you take like 10 minutes to tell him that, so time is of precious entity here. Okay, Karam, you wanted to ask Leon a bit on the experience.
Yeah. So very good. Joe, you know the question I would ask you. Hold on, but okay. So Leon, is there any learning going on between Malaysia and Indonesia and South Korea? And Indonesia may be too soon, but if you want to do a quick chip in of the 2 months experience in Indonesia, that's fine also. But firstly, is there any exchange of experience with Malaysia and South Korea?
Yeah, constantly. I think one of the key things that we used to constantly share with the Korea team was better methods to actually protect our assets. So for example, one thing that the Korean team was looking into was actually investing into kind of 3D GPS systems. By 3D, I'm talking about beyond just lat long, right? When you live in a city where it has plenty of high-rise buildings where basement car parks are very common, it's actually important to know exactly where your car is, on which level. So that was actually one thing that we were actually talking to them on. And specifically for Indonesia, I think...
Okay, did we lose him?
Yeah, he froze.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. I think let's see. I think Leon's back. Hold on.
Okay,
Leon's back.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So just Indonesia.
Ooh, okay. Must be the time bills are not being paid by.
Yeah, man. SOCAR has cut his broadband budget, man.
Okay, Leon, I see you're back. Or are you?
Back? Okay, you can switch off your video, Leon, if you want, and just go with audio.
Okay, I think we lost him.
No, he's going to try audio now. Okay, go ahead, Leon.
Okay, never mind. Why don't we go with Joe? Joe, Karan, you wanted to ask Joe about feedback on some of the questions that you had, right?
Yeah. So, but the first one was on the statement by the Maideen CEO, right, Amir? What do you think of that? Do you think there's some grounds for him to say that, and versus PCOM saying what they said?
I think the statement is probably coming from a place of where he's from. I think we have to do a lot more to reach out. I think that's why we raised the money, right? I think a lot more people are feeling maybe there are still a lot of people that are left out from this e-commerce journey. So I think that's for the ecosystem players like us, right, to kind of step up. And I think that's why we raised this money, right? So we raised this money so that we can be a bit more in front to kind of help more people to get on this. So I think definitely I think there are people who are still not able to join this e-commerce industry. I think that we have to do a lot more as an ecosystem. And a quick shout out to our new investor, which is Easy Parcel, right? And that is actually why we've kind of worked with Clarence from Easy Parcel on this. because Easy Parcel has about 700,000 users, and a lot of them are actually SMEs, micro SMEs. They're selling from home, etc. Right? So we want to reach these users to also be able to help any one of them that's scaling above, maybe 50 orders a day or 100 orders a day, right? So they can have that kind of professional service to help them even grow even bigger, right? Nice. So we want to reach out to as much people as possible.
Okay, we should bring them on our show in a bit. Leon, as we close out today, it's already an hour now. I'd love to have your final thoughts of what you think of, at least 2021 going forward is going to be a very challenging year. There's lots of unknown, there's a lot of variables. We have no idea what's going to happen in Malaysia, especially apparently we're in emergency right now, or at least on emergency rule. I mean, so all kinds of things are happening, right? What sort of advice, what sort of kind of nuggets of wisdom would you impart to our viewers today as a final nugget of your advice from you?
I think we can all play our part in terms of investing in the digital ecosystem, whether it's being a customer, whether it's being an angel, whether it's just giving intellectual advice. I think everyone can play their part in the ecosystem. I think it's super important for us to support local entrepreneurs at this time. And, I think the second part of this advice is in terms of prioritizing areas that we can focus on the multipliers, right? I always believe that it's better to equip someone with an asset that can generate future income than to give someone cash straight up. So my final advice is really focus on the multipliers. And I feel very passionate about supporting the SME and entrepreneurial space because I believe that's where the multipliers are.
So Leon, just quickly, you said SOCAR raised around recently. How much did they raise? I should have checked that myself.
Oh, that actually wasn't recently. That was December 2019. So we raised $18 million back then. And
1880, you mean?
No, 18.
18. Oh, that's a small amount, man. I thought we raised much more. Okay.
Yeah, so we raised $18 back in December 2019, and based on our good results last year, we're actually looking into doing a Series B round soon.
Okay, fine.
Wow. Okay, interesting. And Joe, I mean, same thing, right? Your final thoughts for today?
I think my final thoughts for the viewers and people who are listening, I think to stay hopeful, right? I think stay hopeful. I think the second year of the pandemic, I think a lot of people came in with a bit of optimism, and then I think what's happening right now in the first month might be discouraging. But I think being hopeful is very important. Being hopeful keeps us going, and definitely if you are persistent enough, we will see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So I think that is important.
Okay, and now from the most handsome person in the room, apparently, according to Leon at least, Karam, your thoughts for today as we wrap today up.
Yeah, no. I think first of all, the kind of startup that Leon is involved in with SOCAR, right? Look at so not everything has to be done on the lean and cheap way, right? It's a huge capital investment, but very long term, horizon for them to say when the payout will be. So very risky. Very few companies do that, but they are one of those. And unlike the US model where they raise hundreds of millions and get other people to finance them, look at how the Koreans are doing, very measured. The last one was only 18 million US. So they've obviously have a corporate investor also that has helped. So very interesting what they're doing, and look at what Leon says. That focus on the multipliers. So right now they're trying to go into the crunching the data and going into the investment space, like insurance place, and trying to earn a bit more there. So the way you're trying to just keep earning revenue from the data you have, right, from the user behavior. That's kind of interesting. With now Joe, what is it? And it's not Joey. You few times you call him Joey or Joel. I don't know why. So with Joe, what I find amazing is that Joe didn't mention it. When he started, they had no tech team. So they were just doing it as business people. Only, I think he told me the tech team only came on board in 2013 when they decided to move to the middle mile. So you don't need to have tech savviness even in the early. This is 5-year journey without a tech team. Very interesting. Just right, in-house, right? And then 2013 they went, and the most significant thing is, imagine what he said. We decided to forego 95 our business leg of our business, which was bringing in 95% of the revenue, because we thought that it was too difficult to scale, too competitive, and we're going to move to this business. I mean, that is an incredibly gutsy call. Full credit to them for making that call. I want to really highlight that. That's amazing for them to do that, and then they work through that, and that's where they are today. So superb, man. I
All
look
right,
forward
so,
to covering them further. And they haven't even talked about how they're working with Mr. DIY. So lots of interesting things around
Right.
the
So-
stock iSend story. So more to come.
We'll make sure that go read the article all about Joe. It's on DNA. I got to cut Karam now because he's supposedly 30-second. Here's my final thoughts. It's about 3 minutes. But so with that, we have a great show. We're gonna end with a quick ad, and we will wrap it up in about 30 seconds from now. So let's just watch this ad and let's do a quick wrap up. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. It's been a fantastic show. Thank you, Leon. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for being fantastic. Even though you had some tough challenges, some tough questions like who's more handsome and so on.
I'm collecting my reward of the dinner. So, and
All right,
when
there you
NCO
go.
ends, Karam, I'm taking your
All right, Karam,
offer.
you've got a date, Karam. And Joe, thank you so much for telling us and inspiring your story. Guys, it's been Tech Talk Friday. Next Friday, 6 p.m. again, we'll be back. It's special thanks to our guests, Leon Foong and Khoo, for being stars of our show today. Have a great weekend, everyone. Have fun. Have a lot of chapati. If you don't know where to have good chapati, Karam's house is right around the corner. So go check out the house of Karamjit Singh. Some great chapati there. Have a great weekend. Goodbye. This has been Tech Talk Friday.